you can turn it off right there. Put it on red.
Oh yeah. Not getting out of flag.
Okay, good. How are you?
What do you do, Joe? Restaurant,
I'm in the restaurant business.
Yeah.
Okay. Stinky
Okay,
Fish
good.
Cam and Beach Fish Taco, and I've got a couple of out of the state.
Okay.
Yeah,
In
so
Auburn
there's
and
a
New Orleans and Baton Rouge.
Where in New Orleans?
In the Intercontinental Hotel on St. Charles called the Trinas.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Haven't
Well, I
been
saw
there
you
yet. I'm from New
like
Orleans.
Are you? Okay, yeah.
On the west coast.
I got you. Yeah, we're in Trinas, and then we're
You
in
did. I know
the
you did. It's the only
the
car I've
newly
ever seen you in.
renovated Marriott
And finally
in
my
Baton
husband was
Rouge,
like,
right there at College Drive and I-10.
you know, and the kids are like out of
I
college.
think my friend
and all that.
Marshall
I'm like,
Thompson's working
I'm
there.
not really.
Yeah,
couldn't
he
find
is.
anything
He
that was
absolutely is. Yeah.
And
Okay,
I saw
Marshall.
that
Yeah.
one and
Yeah, we
said,
worked
"They're
together
like,
for
I'll drive and, you
10
know,
years.
and I drove it. I'm like,
Oh yeah. Perfect.
You love
Sure
it?
enough.
Yep.
What is it,
He was-
Stacey?
Yeah, great guy. He's been over there for 2 months
I
now.
remember
something like that.
getting
Yeah.
your Mini Cooper because I mean that's how long I've known you.
I know.
I remember when you got it, and it was so cute. It was when they first came
before
out.
it became like,
Yes.
yeah,
That's great.
ubiquitous.
Perfect. Yeah, I just got to, I never met him living here, but
See if I can get
of course at the hotel.
signal.
I've been good.
Congrats on you.
Working together.
Thank you. That was a real surprise for me.
Okay, so are you not?
Thanksgiving. We didn't get out.
Well, no, I can't. There's no way I
Yeah,
can.
they renovated the hotel inside and out. They did a great job, just like the same group we're with, that did the
Hello.
Intercontinental
Good, how are you?
I just.
4 years ago now.
I would love that. We ready?
Dimension Development.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to call the meeting to order. Let it be noted for the record that we've got a quorum. A quorum for us is 4, just so you guys know. Let's do some bring it on. Bring on the votes. Okay. Public comment on agenda items. Is there any public comment on the agenda items? Mike.
What's it mean when your little red push button's flashing and you have no light around the collar?
Except for mine.
We might need to pass the mic. Are they?
Try it again.
For batteries.
Did you change the That's why.
Are you supposed to?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were on for a little bit. Now the little push, on the push button, the little red button's flashing.
Where's your mic? It's magic.
She also has the only gavel, so.
Magic. Just saying.
They were on and they went off on their own.
Yeah, the batteries are dead. They've been letting them run out, so we should have changed that opinion.
I'll pass mine. Position still?
The gentleman I was in Omnia I haven't reached out to him yet. I thought I would till after the lot and then send him a welcome email.
Yay!
Yay.
Luckily, it's going to be a short meeting.
Yay.
Is he still working here?
Alrighty then. Find some glasses. We're hot.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. gives everybody time to review your packets for those of you who didn't get a chance to.
I'm supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, I'm in operation, I don't know what I'm doing today.
Sorry about that, guys, thanks.
No problem. Should we try that once again with feeling? So we were at the public comment on agenda items. I thought Jay was going to get up and say something when he stood up. No? Okay. Moving on to the approval of last month's minutes. Does anybody need a couple minutes to look over those?
I don't want to make a motion to approve minutes from last meeting.
I second.
Any discussion? Ayes? Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Passes? We did have to vote on something.
That's right.
And so we will move on to, wait a minute, am I in the right place? Yeah, we'll move on to new business with introduction of new committee members.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and do that, Stacy, if that's okay. So we've got Ron
Thank you,
Kuchek,
Mike.
who's with us from Howard Hospitality. If you remember, and I know we've played musical chairs a little bit, but we went from 9 members down to 7 and kind of reseated the committee. The Board of County Commissioners asked us to bring all of our committees back up to 9. Our reason for going to 7 was to have better luck getting a quorum of 4, which has not been an issue for this committee, but from some of our others it has. So they made a decision that we could have a quorum of 4, but they wanted the committees to be 9 members each. So we added Ron, who we're excited to have, so thanks, Ron. Also Larry Green from Emerald Coast Transportation, who couldn't be here today, and Sarah Braswell, who was with us before, and then when we went from 9 to 7, we had asked her to step down, which she was gracious about doing, and now we're excited to have her back. She's on maternity leave, so she'll be back next time around. So we're good now for a while. I think everyone's on 2-year terms, so appreciate everyone kind of being patient through the musical chairs a little bit, but we appreciate you guys being here, and today in the middle of July, definitely appreciate it when everybody's busy. So thanks, Ron.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks, Ron. Welcome. We want to
Thank you.
welcome our new
Welcome.
members.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to old business. Now we're going to get an update on the 2019 co-op advertising program and media plan.
Yeah, so quickly I'll touch on the co-op program, and you've got just a short document there that shows some of the performance of this year versus last year, just to see kind of how we're trending and how things are going. We had the last week of June was the annual co-op sales period for our fiscal 2019. If you remember a couple of meetings ago, this committee approved the plan and the media options. Ultimately, it got approved by the BCC, so we opened it up to our partners. We had an increase across the board in the number of partners, the number of opportunities purchased, the percentage purchased, and total revenue up pretty significantly. A big part of that revenue increase was the price increase of 20% this year, so that accounts for quite a bit of it. But we did add some new opportunities, and real happy with the way that they sold. The response from the partners continues to be great. So we're happy with how that went, and we're going forward with executing those plans.
And Mike, what were those 3 categories for the co-op purchase? There was leisure,
Group and weddings.
group and weddings.
Yeah, leisure, group, and weddings, and in each.
That's why I'm here.
He's only been here for 5 minutes.
I know, I love it.
Leisure, group, and weddings, and then within each of those there was print, digital, and social, and then there was also the sweepstakes component this time around, or every year, which is kind of an all year long type of thing. We also opened it for the first time to non-bed tax collectors and wanted to kind of see how that went. We opened a small number of opportunities. Went really well. We had 4 new partners participate with us in that. So based on that success, we'd anticipate definitely continuing that next year and potentially expanding it as well.
Did you sell out any one of those three categories?
Many of the print opportunities sold out. If memory serves me right, maybe all of the leisure print sold out. All of the leisure print. We did have a reduction in leisure print from last year, so there were fewer opportunities there. But all those sold out. The digital opportunities, there's still space available. There's also almost unlimited possibilities in that, so we could really increase that. But we're thrilled with the participation and happy to see the non-bed tax collector participation as well. So we'll keep moving down that road.
Thank you.
Then the other piece there is more part of the media buy. The South Walton Fishing Adventures, just wanted to give an update on that. We are in the process of production on season 2. Season 1 has run its course. It aired and reran, and we're happy with that. So moving forward with season 2, filming is underway currently. The process is a little bit different there, so I put together a document just so everyone had it. 'Cause it does come up, people asking questions about it and things like that. So give some general information. The biggest change is the people that will be actually fishing on the show. What we did in season 1 was highlighted tourists that were fishing, which presented several challenges, from scheduling to how comfortable they were on camera, to their knowledge of the area, to what the weather was during the short period of time that they were here to fish. So it made a bit of a juggling act and probably affected some of the quality of the production overall. So this year, or this season rather, we're filming it with locals that we know that we would consider interesting individuals in the community that are tourism facing, that can speak well about the area. We recently did one with Justin Gaffrey. We have one coming up this week with Kyle Petit from Louie Louie. Other chefs, restaurateurs, artists, musicians. I believe Jim will participate in the show again.
I will, thank you.
As he did last time around. So a little bit of a different angle, using some folks that we'd consider more brand ambassadors to kind of tell the South Walton story through fishing as the mechanism. It gives us a lot more control over the show and the production quality as well. So excited that that's already started to film. It'll begin airing in January of 2019 on the Sportsman's Channel.
So Mike, how are you reaching out or contacting those brand ambassadors or casting them?
We are just reaching out with our staff. We've kind of brainstormed kind of a short list, and we've started making some calls. A lot of them are folks we've worked with in the past, but we are trying to reach out to some new faces as well. We've got 13 episodes to fill, so we still do have some slots to fill, so we're definitely open to suggestions, but really just relying on our staff to reach out to folks that we work with regularly.
Anybody have anything else on the advertising program or media plan? Any questions or discussion? Let's talk about this emotional positioning study.
Sure. So this is, we like to share whatever research was done between meetings. This was the most recent thing completed. And it was something we've never done before. We have on an ongoing basis our quarterly visitor tracking studies to tell us who we should be marketing to and at what times of the year and things like that. This study was done to help us craft the message that's in our marketing program and in our communications. So it was the intent was to get out of people what emotions they felt coming here and what emotions they felt versus visiting other destinations. So it was done with focus groups in Dallas and Atlanta in May. The subjects were all vacation decision makers in their household with a high annual income who had been to our destination in the past, some of them a couple times, some of them dozens of times. And all of them had traveled here in the last year. So our research agency conducted the focus groups, and I went along and observed, and they were asked a series of questions. It was really pretty interesting to hear their responses. So this is kind of the executive summary of the findings, and I'll walk through it a little bit, not necessarily word for word, but that first slide talks about emotional differentiators. And most of the visitors that we talked to were family visitors, and they all talked about kind of family downtime, kind of unplugged time. They talked about the safety that came up over and over again. We worked with 4 different groups, and the safety that these vacationers felt for their families and for their kids on the beach, where they would let the kids maybe wander a little farther than they normally would, or join up with kids from another family that maybe they didn't know at the beginning of their vacation and play on the beach. So we got some really great feedback on that. They talked a lot about it being a place to relax, be a little bit more unstructured and unscheduled, even compared with our neighbors in Bay and Okaloosa County. In almost all the focus groups, they talked about how they all kind of mentioned in one way or another, or just directly, that there's not much to do in South Walton, and they all thought of that as a positive, which we thought was interesting. They liked kind of waking up and not knowing what their itinerary was for the day, and if it meant just hanging out on the beach or hanging out in the rental house or the resort or the condo or the hotel, they were happy with that as well. So it was interesting to hear some of these things that we don't hear otherwise, and maybe contradict some of the assumptions that maybe we make about our visitors. But we had a very diverse set of focus group participants, and they all kind of, over and over again, you kept hearing the same thing, group after group.
Mike, a quick question. You said
Sure.
earlier that most of the people in the focus group were from families. Do we know at all what that split might have been between families and non-families?
In those groups, I can go back and look. It was probably 80-20. It was all leisure. It was a leisure study, and most of them were summer visitors. That's partially because we were in Dallas, which is more of a summer visitation spot for us. But the majority of them were probably, I would say, 80-20 family visitors versus couples.
Okay.
Or other types of travelers.
And knowing that they're mostly summer, just a question, is there a thought maybe in the future of trying to do one for those non-summer months with a different market set, so we can kind of see how to balance out our year a little bit? Or
Yeah, I think so. I think this one, we were really excited about kind of how this went. It was really kind of eye-opening, so I think we'll continue to do more of these and probably go into other markets. We know that Dallas and Houston are very heavy in the summer for us, where some other spots like Indianapolis are bigger in the fall for us. So we'll take that all into consideration, but there'll be likely more of this type of work coming out of us in the next couple of years.
good, thank you.
Just talking about, going to the next slide, they talk about differentiators, and obviously all of them went to the beach over and over again, but they did mention that Destin has a beach, Orange Beach, Panama City Beach has a beach, but it's that kind of feeling of slowness and relaxation and safety that they get here. We asked them about things like architecture and shopping and dining and dune lakes and things like that, and they said they enjoyed all this. They enjoyed the shopping and the dining while they're here. It wasn't necessarily a decision maker as they were evaluating vacation destinations. Appreciate it while they're here. Things like dune lakes and architecture, they didn't really identify as specific attributes. They thought that it built kind of the overall feel. They didn't come and admire the architecture of the dune lakes necessarily, but felt that they contributed to the ambiance that they liked. They couldn't really identify what it was, but when we mentioned the cottage style of Seaside or the architecture of Rosemary Beach, then they were excited about it. But it all kind of, those weren't strong enough standalone, but they all kind of together built the atmosphere that these folks enjoyed so much. The last point there, it talks about capturing the nightlife in South Walton, and a lot of them talked about this. And when they talk about nightlife, and we should probably articulate it a little better in the slide, they liked that the nightlife was going out for ice cream or roasting marshmallows over the beach campfire, or those types of family-friendly things. That or that nightlife meant hanging out on the balcony or the back porch of the rental house with your kids and letting them stay up past their normal bedtime and still feeling safe and feeling like it wasn't a rowdy or a non-family friendly environment. So that was nice to hear as well. Talking in the next slide, a lot of it about discovery. They thought they can connect with the people they travel with, connect with their family a little bit more, be less inclined to pull out their cell phone every couple of minutes. And that individual discovery, that's not so much people traveling on their own individually, but folks that are here that have time to kind of reflect on their thoughts because it is quiet and slow. Those were all things that were identified by these focus groups as things that they enjoyed coming down here. Next couple of slides just talk about how this will affect some of our marketing communications and our creative design going forward, and what we need to focus on, knowing that the beach is obviously our most important asset, but it's not totally unique to us in that our neighbors have beaches as well, and they all differ a little bit, but we have to promote that kind of family friendliness, that safetiness, that togetherness. A lot of times we focus on pictures of a big empty beach or a nature photo, whereas families getting together and spending time with one another might be more appropriate. So, like I said, first time we did this type of study, or at least as far as back as our current research agency has been with us, and we thought it was really helpful and very exciting, and it'll help us going forward. You'll see some of our messaging and our creative design reflect some of what we heard in the feedback we got here.
So Mike, a question. If we're using this information to kind of help us with that family-friendly feeling, knowing that that's a certain time of year, then will we be shifting our focus, our message, knowing that the rest of the year is really kind of a different market set, or?
Well, I think, not necessarily. I think, I'm not predicting a complete shift in our creative approach or our messaging approach necessarily. We know that the families still do come in the fall and the winter and the springtime, even though this focus group was very family focused. The majority of our visitors do come with family. As we continue to do more of these studies and we get more diversity in the bigger sample size and more diversity in the sample size, we'll take all that stuff into consideration as well. And we'll be able to get a little bit more specific, like couples traveling together or family reunion trips traveling together, or whatever those specific profiles of visitors would be.
Have you got a video schedule set? Are you going to be shooting video?
We don't have anything coming up soon. We've got a handful of smaller projects, but not a larger brand video project. This was, that recommendation was something that Downs and St. Germain put together for us. We did show, part of those findings came out of showing our current brand video and getting feedback on it. And most of the feedback was it didn't show enough togetherness. It showed a lot of kind of individual, kind of on a isolation a little bit, rather than a more inclusive type of experience. So that's where those video recommendations came from, was showing the current video that we have.
Going back to the other video, excuse me, on the fishing show, where the TDC is able to keep the footage, what are you guys going to do with that?
We can do quite a bit with it. We haven't gotten it back yet. We will soon because of our agreement with the network. But it's got all sorts of things that we can kind of slice and dice, not just fishing content, but events, food, general beach type of stuff as well. So as we're building our new website, video will be a big part of that. And so that's 6.5 hours of produced, edited footage that we now have to work with once we get it in-house. So really there's just a ton of possibilities of what we'll be able to do with it.
Did you want to address that last slide, Mike? Other findings, or?
Oh, sure. That was just talking about us versus our neighbors. They talked about Destin and Panama City Beach being a little bit more structured vacations. We're added to a little bit of the stress level of the vacation, maybe for the organizer, whether it's buying tickets to an attraction or determining where you can get into something on a certain day. They felt less safe in both of those environments than they do in South Walton. We talked about using some of this to maybe go to your point, Lisa, a little bit, some of this information to get some of these folks to return outside of the summer months, get them to come more than once a year, whether it's for a shorter trip in the fall or the winter. The brand name challenge was something that rang true that was no shock to us necessarily. We asked them, how do you refer to, we call it South Walton, what do you say? And there were 50 answers. Destin was a very popular one. Some of them would talk about Seaside and Rosemary and Sandestin, which was nice as well. But definitely a lot of confusion, which we knew, but this really reinforced kind of the brand challenge that we have that we've been talking about for some time now, that folks don't really know what to call it. And some of them call it South Walton, some of it call it Destin, and a thousand other possibilities as well. So that, like I said, it was not surprising to hear, still tough to hear during the process, but something that we've known about and that we're working on and we'll always kind of continue to work on. But stronger in Atlanta than in Dallas, but still a struggle in both.
Agreed. We have our director's update.
Sure. So just quickly in front of you there, we've talked several times in the past about the visitor guide, so it's done, we're happy to say, and shipping to homes and going out of our visitor center. We're excited about it. I think it came out really well. Wanted to talk about the schedule a little bit about that, because of the timing of this one. The last one was out for about a year and a half, so what we're going to do is move all of our publications to more of an annual calendar. We'll be published in January of every year, so they're not kind of coming out staggered throughout the year. So this one, we will make a couple of changes only to the time-sensitive information for the January issue. Those will be things like Artist of the Year, Perfect in South Walton winners, and other things that are time-sensitive. Probably change the cover and make a few corrections where we see we can make improvements. And then do another one at that time and update the accommodations listing as well. And that will stay out for a year. And then we'll be on a more normal annual calendar with not only the visitor guide, but all of our publications. You've also got, one thing that we recently got in is our Perfect in South Walton guide. We get a lot of questions in our visitor center about the best place to eat or best place to stay. This gives us something to give to those people. We can say, independent voters rank these as the, top in these 30 categories in South Walton. So it's meant to be distributed out of our visitor center. And again, that'll be an annual piece, just like the dining guide and the visitor guide and everything else we do going forward next year. But that's got the current Perfect in South Walton award winner information in it. Otherwise, the website I know has been talked about a long time. We did award the contract to Zender Communications. It'll be signed by the Board of County Commissioners next week. And we've been in talks with them on directions to go on that. They know that sooner the better, so we're excited to show some progress on that here pretty soon. Estimate about a 6-month build out for that, but I think we've all identified that as kind of one of our biggest challenges and biggest projects. So excited to see that get through the process and awarded, and work getting going on that here this summer, and be ready to go in 6 months or so. And that is all I have for director's updates.
Council comments. Would anybody like to start? Well, I'm just going to jump in, being the shy, retiring type that I am. And, I would like to know what we can do to help the TDC with informing the public as to the rules of the beach. If anybody's paying attention, I know everyone at this meeting is. The white elephant in the room is what's going on with customary use versus private beach. I follow it very closely. It's extremely stressful just for me to follow it. So I would like to know what we can do as brand ambassadors to help you guys.
Sure. We have, through our communications department, been putting out either in our Connection monthly newsletter or on emails individually between newsletters, kind of the latest talking points on what's going on with beach access. Anytime any new information comes in, we get stuff out to our partners so they can inform their guests as best as we can. We have it on our website as well, but really the partner communication, because of the timeliness of it and how frequently things are changing, is probably the best way we're going to communicate it to as many people as we can. So if you're not on our email database, let us know. David, our Director of Communications, puts out a great piece of kind of what's changed, what's going on, and kind of puts it in layman's terms. It is an extremely confusing issue, unfortunately. So we have been doing the best we can to communicate it in as simple to understand terms as we can. Anyone that we send that to the point of it is to then communicate it to the consumer, who we have less interaction with. So anybody who needs talking points or a frequently asked question type of information, we've got it. We're distributing it to our database as often as things change. And I'm assuming that they're going to continue to change going forward. We're also doing our best to push where you can go to the beach without any questions. The regional beach accesses, the state parks, those things. We've kind of upped our communication of those assets to try and direct as many people there as we can with the free parking system in the state parks right now and the 8 regional beach accesses. Longer term picture, we've spent $25 million in the last couple of years buying property to create more access to the beach. As far as the privacy rights and things like that of the property owners, we're a little bit at the mercy of the lawmakers and politicians. I don't know if you wanted to, you're probably more well versed on it than I am. We understand everybody's frustration on it. We share the frustration, not only for the challenge in communicating what the rules are, because it's extremely confusing to us who live here and go to the beach, but then to a visitor who's not aware of it before they get here, it's even more difficult to understand. But we'll continue to do as much as we can to push it out. So if you ever need copy points or anything like that, I know David and Brian Kellenberger, our Director of Beach Operations, have done quite a bit with the media trying to get the word out both on our position and kind of what this means for the beach-going public as they can. But without a doubt, it's the biggest challenge we've probably got in the community at the moment.
Maybe after really busy season, might be helpful to look at best practices of who's communicating what, who's doing a great job. That might be helpful.
Sure.
In putting something together.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any council comments? Any discussion? Public comments? Phil, what's going on? Nothing?
Hey Stacy, if I could, just for a
Please.
quick second. At the last marketing committee meeting, I gave an update that we were looking at 2 pieces of property on 331, the old Sandcastles building and the regional utilities property. And just not sure if you guys know, but the county did purchase those 2 parcels. So we are moving forward with a new visitor center and administrative complex. So we will be putting out an RFQ soon, probably in the next couple of weeks, for a design and engineering firm to design that building. And then we'll do a separate RFQ for construction. So we are moving, and I'm going to try to be very optimistic in my timeline and see if we can be in there within the next maybe 2.5 years. So, but I think by the time we get it designed and then a building for the size we're talking about, it's probably going to take a good 18 months to 2 years just to build the building alone. So anyway, just wanted to give an update on that.
That's great.
Yeah,
You guys have been
we're
working-
excited. It's going to be great for the visitor center, having that location on 331 as you come down in inner South Walton. It's going to be phenomenal.
You guys have worked hard on that for a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I mean, that was one of the comments that I made in addressing the TDC and the BCC. It's, I know it's been, I think about 7 or 8 years, and probably even longer than that we needed a new facility. So it's exciting times.
Great. Thanks, Jim.
What happens to the existing building?
Right now, so the existing building is leased through the state, through DEP. And so the terms of the lease are that we are to return it back to its original state to DEP. And so I don't know at this point. We're going to reach out to DEP and see what that looks like, because technically that means we need to, tear it down, tear it up, and return it back. I can't imagine DEP would want us to do that. Right. So we need to get with DEP to see what they would like to see for that site moving forward. Obviously, we have some time. I think at best we're probably 2.5 years away, but we'll get in touch with DEP and kind of see what their thoughts are. I just didn't want to do it too early with DEP. Just, you know, I don't want them knocking on the door every month saying, okay, yeah, you moving yet? You moving yet?
Great.
Anything else, guys?
I got back to the fishing charters. If you need a candidate to go out there, there's a gentleman by the name of Martin Manley.
Oh, yeah.
He's a character. He's not a celebrity, but he is in his own right. Sometimes I think he belongs on stage next to Eddie Murphy. He grew up here, avid fisherman. He's a character. I just, you know, put it out there. Martin Manley at the Hilton. He's been there since he opened the place.
Yeah, 30, yeah, he's original hire.
He could tell you a lot of stories from way
Okay,
back in the day.
great. That's good info to have.
Just a thought.
Yeah, thank you, Ron.
Yeah. Don't tell him I told you.
I will.
Okay.
Anything else, ladies and gentlemen? All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
That was the all-time fastest
Yeah, that
meeting
was.
that we've ever had.
That was.
Throw that in there. Wow.
She pushed it